I'm going to share with you some of my memories of growing up in Bountiful. We moved to Bountiful in the summer of 1960. I was 8 years old. I had been baptized up in Brigham City. I remember that I was the only child of Dad who was baptized by Dad, he having joined the church a few years earlier. Anyway, I remember that in order to sell our house in Brigham City, they had to take a trade-in of a house in Bountiful. But I believe it was on Orchard Drive, in quite a bit north on Orchard Drive, and Mom didn't want to live there, and so we bought another house in the in the Bountiful 4th Ward, just 2 blocks east of the Bountiful Elementary School on 3500 West. I believe the address was 1628 South, 35 West. And I remember that growing up, I played baseball. I played catch with Chet Hayes and Mont Anderson. They lived next door to each other, just 2 houses to the north on 1600 South. And we would play catch in between their 2 houses. The houses were only 15 feet apart, and we did that a lot. And I played Little League a number of years, and I remember I must have been in 4th or 5th grade when I was selected to the All-Star team for that year. And I wasn't a starter, but I remember in one of the games I was going to pitch hit, and I got up and I swung and I missed, and I swung and I missed, and on the 3rd swing I got a base hit, and I think a run scored. But I don't remember any other memories of playing baseball except for that one game where I had a pitch hit, base hit. Then I remember that the school, out in front of the school, on Sunday afternoons, many Sundays, I'd go down and play football on the front lawn of the school. In back of the school, there was a huge field, 4 baseball diamonds in each corner, and that's where I played Little League. Just west of that field was 5 Points Shopping Center. There's many times I remember walking down to 5 Points to buy candy or something. In the end of January, after we moved to Bountiful, that's when Dad passed away one Sunday morning. He had come home from priesthood meeting. That was when you went to priesthood meeting and Sunday school in the morning, and then in late afternoon you'd have your sacrament meeting. It was before the block schedule. And I remember that he'd come home from priesthood meeting, and he had put the roast on prior to going to priesthood meeting, and he'd pulled the roast out to look at it, see how it was doing, and he collapsed onto the floor. I was the only one in the room with him at the time, and I yelled, and everyone came in, and Van came up and did mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, but he had died of a massive heart attack on the kitchen floor Sunday morning. I remember that before they took him away, the paramedics came, and then a medical examiner or a coroner or somebody came and pronounced him dead, and then they took him away. I don't have a lot of memories. I was 8 years old and almost 9. I would have turned 9 the next month, and I'll talk about his funeral another time and stuff like that. But growing up, as I got a little bit older in 5th and 6th grade, I started to be friends with Danny Robbins and Paul Belknap, who lived in the next ward over on 1400 South. And I remember doing a lot of things with them. And Paul's dad was a doctor, and they had a big house, and they had tennis courts in their backyard. And at some point in junior high, they built a big home up on the hill, and I continued to be friends with them. And they were right on the gully. There was a creek or a river that ran through their backyard. Their property went all the way down into the gully, and they had a little corral down there, and they had horses. And Paul raised a bull one year, got a baby bull, and was raising him. And he butted him when he was feeding him a bottle. He butted him in his nose and broke his nose. I remember that. But they didn't have a paved street, and you had to enter their property from 1800 South and drive quite a ways east on a dirt road that was directly east of reservoirs, open reservoirs for Weber water. I remember later in junior high and high school, we'd climb the fence and go swim in the reservoirs. I remember one time riding horses bareback, one of their horses, and as you got to the end of the dirt road, you had to make a sharp right-hand turn to go up the hill a little bit before you could go into their driveway. And we'd gallop these horses along this dirt road, and one time making the turn, I couldn't hold on and I fell off the horse. And but those were good times. As I entered junior high for 7th grade, it was South Davis Junior High, and it was out on, I want to say 2600 South. And I was elected 7th grade president, was king of the Valentine's dance that year. And in Davis County, they start sports. They start football in junior high, and so I don't think 7th graders could play, but 8th and 9th graders could play. And I started playing football, and I was pretty good. I started as an 8th grader. I was on the team, and I started, and I remember I was a running back, and one of the drills that we would do is they had a rope, two pieces of rope that were tied together that made a square in the middle, and 4 people would hold on to the end of these 2 pieces of rope, and there was a square. And as a running back, you would get handed the ball, and you'd have to run ahead, and you'd have to put your shoulders and your head and your shoulders through the square and keep running, even though the 4 guys holding the rope would stop you. You'd have to keep your legs moving. It was to teach you to, even though when you got hit, that you wouldn't stop moving your legs. And I remember that I did it so well that the coach would always have me he'd always use me as the example of how to do that. I remember that in one of the games, we played right on the field just west of the junior high, and in one of the games, I remember I was playing outside linebacker, and I was covering a guy for a pass, and I dove in front of him, and I was horizontal, and I intercepted the ball. And the next day in math class, I can't remember the name of the teacher, the teacher told everybody in the class that I had made the best interception he had ever seen made in a junior high game, and he said that in front of the class, and that made me really feel good. And I remember that junior high, it was a pretty good walk from our house. You know, maybe 2 miles. We lived on 16th South, and this was 20. It was maybe 2 miles. But by the time I was in junior high, Mom had gone to work at the State Board of Education, and she had to leave, I don't know, maybe 7:30 in the morning, and I didn't want to walk, and so I would get up early and I would ride with her to school, and I would be like the first person in the building, the first student, and I would sit on a radiator that was putting out heat to stay warm until school started. But I remember after school we would, a bunch of us would walk home along Orchard Drive, and there was a Arctic Circle right next to a, I don't know what, it was a grocery store, I can't remember. I think it was a Smith's. It was a Smith's. And we would fill up that Arctic Circle. They had a few booths in the back, and we would fill it up and order Coke and French fries and sit and talk and eat French fries. Mom was working, so there wasn't anybody really to go home to, and so it didn't matter how long it took to get home. But I remember that was a lot of fun. Okay, that's enough for this time. We'll see how you like this one.